It's kind of a sad day when you have to sign an executive order to ensure free speech in the United States of America, isn't it?
Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to the family. So, free speech. It's a bit of a sad time when, in order to get free speech, you've got to sign an executive order to ensure it on campuses. So this is from the New York Times. Trump says he will sign free speech order for college campuses. Well, I do believe very strongly that college should be a bastion of free speech. That's where you should hear dissenting opinions. That's where you should definitely get your belief system challenged. Oxon Hill, MD. President Trump said on Saturday that he planned to issue an executive order that would help guarantee free speech at colleges and universities by putting their federal aid at risk if they do not protect the viewpoints of students of all political stripes. Good. Fantastic. People should realize that that means the good and the bad. That means you're going to hear communist ideas, you're going to hear Antifa ideas, you're going to hear actual fascist ideas. But that is a good thing, because once these ideas are out there and people can gather and see that these ideas are good, these ideas are bad, and then we can take the middle ground, cut out the fat, get rid of the bad ideas, and keep the good ideas. You know, that's kind of how governments formed. That's kind of how groups formed. People got together, discussed things, said, hey, I feel this way. Another person said, hey, I feel this way. And then they took the good, they kept it, they took what they thought was bad and threw it out. For better or for worse, that's the way it should be. The president made the announcement during a rambling 2-hour speech to activists. Okay. That's kind of interesting wording that they put there. A rambling 2-hour speech to activists. That wasn't activists. They were conservatives at a political event, a conference in Washington. They're trying to minimize it is what they're doing. They're trying to say it's just a bunch of activists and Trump was just rambling and rambling. Whether he was rambling or not, the idea of enforcing free speech on college campus should have been like a no-brainer. Duh! You want free speech. You want free speech everywhere. For the last few years, it's been free speech at this little block on a campus, this little designated free speech area. So if you went to college, you didn't really have free speech. How sad is that? A rambling 2-hour speech to activists at the Conservative Political Action Conference outside Washington. But he did not provide any details about the possible executive order. Several White House officials did not respond to emails or telephone calls seeking additional information. Well, I would say it's about time. The White House did not respond to questions about when the president might sign the order. The issue of free speech on college campuses has for years been a cause célèbre among young conservative activists who point to instances around the country in which conservative voices have been shunned by liberal students and professors. Yeah, and why not? If you're a member of a group and you've noticed that your free speech is being stifled, wouldn't you call it? I would hope you would call it out. Definitely call it out to me. Absolutely. If you think you're being stifled with your free speech, say something. That's free speech. It is your right to have free speech. At least it should be your right to have free speech. People died for this. People gave their very lives for you to have free speech. You should be able to use it. The crowd, which included many college-age conservatives, welcomed Mr. Trump's announcement, leaping to their feet when he pledged to hold school administrators accountable for ensuring that conservatives were permitted to express their views on campuses, often places where liberals outnumber them. Yeah, liberals do tend to outnumber conservatives in college. It's because students get in there fresh out of high school, they're in learning mode, and they have liberal professors who give them these ideas, and then they don't allow the dissenting opinion to even be heard. Like I've said, that's where it starts. You go to college, you hear one viewpoint. Anybody else that says another viewpoint, people beat them down and say, no, that's bad. So what are you going to think? You're going to think, oh, well, that viewpoint's bad because everybody says that it's bad. You control speech, You control the population. That's why free speech is so important. If you control speech, then you're not free. We need to have free speech. We need to have freedom of the press, although the press has kind of become something different lately. It used to be freedom of the press. The press was the watchdogs against the government for the people, and that's what it was designed for. Now it's just a political bludgeon in which to beat your political opponent about the head with. The president cited the cases of Hayden Williams, a young activist who was beaten up last month. And they found the guy, by the way, that beat him up. They found him. Maybe I'll do a video on it. He was recruiting for a conservative organization at the University of California, Berkeley, long one of the leading centers of liberal academic thought. If they want our dollars, and we give it to them by the billions, they've got to allow people like Hayden and many great young people and old people to speak, Mr. Trump said, drawing huge applause. Yes, and why shouldn't he draw applause? Whether you agree with Trump or not, and I agree with Trump on some things, and I disagree with Trump on some things, but freedom of speech, I mean, good God. Are you seriously telling me that you would be against freedom of speech? Anybody out there? Freedom of speech is a fundamental right that we have to have. We have to. Mr. Trump invited Mr. Williams, who was in the audience, to address the crowd briefly, calling him strong and urging him to sue the university because of the episode. Mr. Williams thanked the president for supporting young conservatives such as himself. Floyd Abrams, a leading First Amendment lawyer, expressed concern about the president's proposed executive order. What concerns? What concerns? Let's see. The visage of most congeniality anti-free speech administration in American history, making a series of decisions as to which campus conduct is pro or anti-free speech is more than alarming, Mr. Abrams said in an email Saturday afternoon. Yes, but the opposite is also true. The universities deeming what can be said and what cannot be said is the exact same frickin' thing. You're just picking your biased side and saying, but what about my side? It's the same thing with allowing campuses to decide what free speech is and what free speech isn't, and what's hate speech and what isn't. The president has raised a similar threat before, implying he would withhold federal funds from Berkeley after it canceled a speech by Milo Yiannopoulos, a conservative speaker and professional provocateur. Everybody should be able to hear the dissenting opinions. Everybody. Even if they're bad ideas, especially if they're bad ideas, get them out there in the public so people can hear them and say, wow, those are some bad ideas. You hide bad ideas. People don't realize they're bad ideas. People believe those bad ideas, and then they get indoctrinated. We're going to skip a little bit down here because this is just pretty much fluff. It talks about Black Lives Matter and McDonald. He criticized the Black Lives Matter, and he was blocked from speaking. Let's see. Okay. He said the executive order would require colleges to support free speech if they want federal funding. It's not clear how long the idea has been under consideration at the White House, probably for quite a while, or whether the president decided to pursue an executive order because of the episode involving Mr. Williams. And I'm wondering if constitutionally he can do this. I wouldn't see why not, as long as the framework was correct, as long as it wasn't overreaching and it simply stated free speech, and it didn't simply state free speech for this person or this person, but just a blanket free speech. I don't see why it wouldn't be against the Constitution. In fact, I believe you wouldn't even have to. You'd just be able to quote the Constitution and say, look, you're guaranteed your freedom of speech. God, we used to be run by things like this. Mr. Trump made the announcement during one of the longest speeches he has ever delivered, speaking for more than 2 hours to thousands of activists at the conclusion of the 3-day annual convention. Yes, because anybody that has an opinion different to yours, Mr. Writer, is an activist. Not someone concerned for the country, not a politician, just an activist. They give us some very bad people with big, long crime records, he said, of Central American countries, including Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Murderers, killers, drug dealers, human traffickers. It's so sad to see how stupid we have been. Not all people are bad. Not all immigrants are bad. But not all immigrants are good, which is why we have a vetting system and we let them in legally. That way we can get a background check, we can know who they are, and do we really want them in our country or not? We don't want fully open borders, just let any willy-nilly person in. That would not be smart. That wouldn't be smart at all. Down at the bottom, somebody described it as a high school term paper written by a poor student, he joked. All right. He denigrated the trade deals made by previous politicians and boasted about the tariffs that the United States had imposed on China. I kind of don't agree with the tariffs. I believe it made the trade a little bit harder. It has netted short-term gains for us, but in the long term, I do believe it's going to be detrimental to us. The Green New Deal, yes. The joke at the bottom is in reference to the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal. Somebody described it as a high school term paper written by a poor student. Yeah. It was written by an idealistic person that had no idea that human beings, despite how much they care about the planet and their fellow human beings and things like that, they still need to eat and sleep. And for you to propose a program that would interrupt trade, interrupt our GDP, interrupt business, interrupt people making money so that they can eat and that they can sleep, that is not a good idea. And time frame, you want to do it by 2030, that would be 2,000 buildings a day torn down and rebuilt. 2,000 buildings a day torn down and rebuilt. It can't be done. It can't be done. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think college campus should be an echo chamber for liberal ideas? Do you think they should hear dissenting opinions? Do you think free speech should be just a blanket, yeah, you've got free speech, as long as it's not calling for violence against people or calling for certain acts of violence? Then yeah, why not? I believe we should have free speech, and I had thought this whole time that America was based upon the foundation of free speech, because speech is how you control the population, and our founding fathers knew that, and so they said, look, you have to have freedom of speech. I understand laws and things get amended, they get changed over time, but freedom of speech, we can't control speech like we have been. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'm pretty strong on the fact that freedom of speech should be propagated. It shouldn't be challenged at all. Your turn to chime in. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I think it's about time.